In this brand new episode of the Web3 Creators Podcast, we have Tomer Bariach from Flori Ventures with us. We get into the VC world, how do they go about trying to find the next billion-dollar company, and he also shares some very interesting tips and tricks for founders to approach investors and to raise successful funds. So stick with us till the end and let's get into it.
You're listening to the Web3 Creators Podcast, where we speak to the brightest minds and builders in crypto, DeFi, NFTs, and the metaverse. Our goal is to give you the absolute best tools for building a thriving business in the Web3 space. Now, here's your host, Hernan Arber. Let's start creating.
Hello, creators! Welcome to a brand new episode of the Web3 Creators Podcast. And today I have with me, nonetheless, then Tomer Bariach from Flori Venture Capital. And how are you, Tomer? Happy birthday, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on my birthday. This is my birthday podcast. Excited about it.
Yes, your birthday episode. You know, you can make a wish and it will come true. So how about we make a wish for the entire crypto ecosystem?
It is. Let's wish people will use crypto for what it's supposed to be used and not for nonsense. That's that's my birthday wish.
Let's kick off with that, Tomer. Let's kick off with that. So, what do you think crypto should be used for in your mind?
Crypto, first and foremost, needs to be used in order to rebuild the financial system from its most basic layer to the most application layer, like highest layer of it, in order to create a new either financial instrument or a monetary system that will be serving people and allowing people to live in prosperity rather than becoming a leech of a society as it is today. I think one of the sentences that I like, not sentence, but words that I like in Hebrew, in Old Hebrew, blood and money is the same word. It's damim. You say dmei chaver, which is like the blood that you pay in order to be part of something.
The fee, a fee is like a blood.
A fee is like a blood that you pay. It's
yes.
a little bit of blood that you, and the reasoning for it is,
how is the crypto ecosystem? Why do you think the crypto system has become like a leech or leech people?
No, not the crypto system, the financial system as it is today. Not
okay.
Because I'm going back to the blood, because the money is the blood of society. And if money is circulating right, the same if his blood is circulating right in the body, it allows the body to function. It the brain doesn't need more blood than it actually needs. It needs just the amount of blood that it needs in order to prosper. And the way the economical system is built today is where a lot of capital, and I'm not against billionaires, I'm not against anything, I'm not a socialist in that sense. I'm actually a very capitalist person, I have to say. Still, money doesn't flow. You have people today who don't have access to loans, to pension, to insurance, that their financial system is in hyperinflation. And all of that is because of we're missing the veins of the economy that blockchain will rebuild in that sense.
That's I first of all, I totally agree with that, and I hope we find a way to make a better circulation system for the body of society. So let's now take a step back. Let's now go to your personal story, and we'll come back to this topic of the financial blood circulating system. Okay, tell us a bit about you. How do you? What's your way, first of all, into crypto from your professional life, and then all the way from your startings in crypto, all the way to becoming a venture capital or VC in crypto? I think that's super an amazing story, because a lot of our viewers will very much like to know the path and know how do you start a VC, right?
Yeah. So I'll start way back in 2013. I was a student for economics and psychology in the Hebrew University. Um, I uh, I started searching for ways that I can improve the economy, but not from the classic system that you can do in Israel. Like you can go work in the treasury, but I just don't fit those systems. So I started searching for alternatives. And I met a guy called Bernard Liatar. He came to give a lecture in Tel Aviv University. And he was one of the architects of the euro system, the financial, the euro of the Europe. And he was talking about community currencies. He was talking about the ability of a community to issue its own currency, and by that reimagine its financial structure and social structure. I was amazed by his talk. You can still find it on YouTube. You can search "Money Diversity" by Bernard Liatar. Today, it will sound very like normal, the stuff that he says, but back then it was like he blew my mind. I flew over to Ghent in Belgium to see one of the projects that he did, and I came back to Israel and I started my own currency, my own community currency called the Jerusalem Lira. Along that path of trying to build it, I've met some amazing people. Some of them were like Eyal Herzog and Gali Ben-Arzi and those groups that are today known as the founders of Bancor. I collaborated with them on issuing the Jerusalem Lira, and later I was working for them in Bancor. Bancor back then was the first DeFi, one of the first DeFi protocols. It was on the product side.
A DeFi protocol before DeFi was even a term.
Exactly. I remember we sat in the offices of Bancor, and we heard from the outside the term DeFi, and we're like, "What's DeFi?" And we're like, "Oh, you're talking about us." We're like, it's us that you're describing here. So I got to see DeFi movement coming up from the first row. Later, I was an advisor to protocol architecture and token economics to some like companies. That's where I met on that journey Yoni Assia, the founder of eToro, and with him and with another amazing group of people, we launched Good Dollar, which Good Dollar is a universal basic income token that is active today in 183 countries. The idea was and still active that can we imagine an economy? Bitcoin mining today is mining about $34 million, if I'm not mistaken, a day. And our question is, can we create a financial system that instead of giving that money to the miners, you can distribute it between any person around the world in order to create a basic income? The system is still active and distributing hundreds of dollars a day, if I remember correctly. Later, I was still an advisor to some companies. That's where I met Maria, who is my co-founder today. Maria Legve, she just sold her company to Zynga. And she started Flori Ventures. Initially, I was an advisor, and then I was an advisor and an investor in Flori. And then I was advisor, investor, and a scout. And I was like, okay, just move to my side. Like she gave me a sentence. She told me, like, instead of asking people for money to give them an advice, you can give people money to give them an advice. It's like, oh, that's actually way more fun to do. We raised some more money together, and we're still in the middle of our Fund 1, which is Flori Ventures. A bit about Flori Ventures. We are a VC investing in early stage startups with mainly emerging markets and impact solutions. A lot of climate, a lot of credit solutions. Yes, that's us. Beside that, I have one daughter. Her name is Ofri. She's 1 year and 5 months old. I draw with charcoal in my free time. I'm a painter. Yes, that's me. That's my story, basically.
Well, that's amazing. And I read your post about your daughter. We all wish her excellent health for the many, many, many years to come.
Thank you.
So, Tomer, so how did you was it a conscious decision to say, okay, I think I'm working with the co-founders and working with token economics and product. Are we now? Is this where I transition into working with a VC, or it kind of happened organically as you worked with Maria and worked into Flori and decided, okay, I guess this is going to be now my my thing?
It was a very conscious decision in that sense. As someone who worked in the intersection of crypto and impact for so long, I felt like there's a lot of missing knowledge where it comes from the investor side on the impact that crypto can do. And as a VC, you have a lot more ability to push the movement forward in terms of talking to more VCs, explaining them what are we doing, what can we invest in, and they get a bit of a wider view on the market, which the more I started interrogating the VC world, I was amazed by. That my poor wife knows it, but the things I like the most is to hear about an idea of crypto, a protocol, a design, and then just like talk it through as much as I can. My poor wife, because she doesn't like it, she works in agriculture, but sometimes she's the only person I can talk to about an idea I just read about in a blog post, and I was like, well, you have to hear that. So
I know my wife also goes blank, like, oh, your crypto thing again.
Yeah, exactly. So being on the VC side, I get to research multiple protocols with multiple of fascinating people and be in the position that I want to be. My special skill is in this architecture and token economics, and the fact that I can give my gift to so many people and help them bring their product to the next level is exactly where I want to be now in life. So yes, it was a very conscious decision in that sense.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Tomer. Now let's talk a bit about Flori, because you mentioned in your statement that you're also focusing on the climate aspect of an emerging markets. Now, climate has become a very convoluted subject because, in the one hand, I think it's a universal value to kind of take care of the place you live in. In this case, our planet Earth, and we are all aware of the issue of climate change and how that's impacting our the livability of the planet. And at the same time, there is this movement called ESG, which we can get into it, environmental social governance, which is kind of in my view, being leveraged into having a monetary elite, like the World Economic Forum, try to control and impose the restrictions on the rest of the world and have them live according to what they believe everyone should do to help the climate. So how do we bridge those gaps? How do we at the same time promote good environmental kind of systems or mechanisms, and not cave into this, having a Carl Schwab dictate us how much we can travel a week?
So it's a game of data. The fact that at the moment we know nothing about anything. The fact that you don't know what is actual emission of the computer you bought, right? Not only that, when a company tells you that they are going to be zero emissions by 2030, you have zero knowledge of what does that actually mean, right? It's all managed in the dark. And as long as it's managed in the dark, our ability to make a conscious decision and for good to win over evil doesn't exist. Because as long as something is managed in the dark, it will be subjected to politics, unnecessary politics in that sense, I would say. The most interesting intersection we see today between crypto and climate, in that sense, is where it comes to the voluntary carbon market, it's called. The voluntary carbon market is a paradigm of saying, well, me as Tomer, I'm taking a flight today, I'm flying to Barcelona. This flight is going to have an emissions of 300 tons, let's say, for the sake of the example. I have the ability to go and buy from, let's say, a farmer that is doing regenerative agriculture, 3 tons of carbon certificates that, because he did a regenerative agriculture like ecosystem, he brought back into the earth another 300 tons, and I can buy it from him and I can retire it. This system already exists today. But as I mentioned, it all happens in the dark. Many companies are doing it. You can checkbox like, I want to offset my flight, but you don't really want.
I was in charge of doing the net zero emissions for voice.com. I was working I was directing the mobile development, and it really it was impressive how actually it is quite obscure, but at the same time it is how do you say, like kind of reliable, and it's convenient for a company to say, okay, instead of having all our workforce, which is now remote, going on and planting trees and stuff, there are companies who can give us those carbon credits. They are certified like this, and that, and they will give this money to agriculture, to plant trees, to different causes around the world, to improve the food. And then you pay these companies, you get those credits, and then that's kind of offset your emissions, which you also need to calculate how much the workers travel and how much is the company using in energy and stuff. So that's become a whole industry in and of itself, right?
It's a huge industry. And the problem with this industry, like any other industry, that there are scams. And as an end user, you want to know, what did they really offset? Did they really offset with the new forest that was planted and taken care of? Or they just saying they did and they actually bought carbon credits?
I, for one, am not planning on traveling to Africa, to the spot where they said the trees were going to be planted. That's for sure. You have to rely on a previous kind of the company's prestige or their
brand.
Credentials.
You're counting on their brand, like any other thing. And we in blockchain are in the game of like, don't trust, verify, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be able to, it's called the measurement system is MRV system, measure, report, verify. And if we take all this data and we put it on chain and we aggregate the data between different sensors, from drones, from satellites, from on the ground measurement, and we put it all on chain so it's transparent to everybody. And then you can see now every carbon certificate, what was it like issued, or based on what was the research that was made, what was measured. And after that, if you want to see if the company actually retired it, you can see who issued the carbon certificate, based on what, who was it sold to, and what price. And you can see that they actually retired it, and not say that they retired it and then sold it to someone else, which is something that we also see. It's called double spending, because retiring means that you basically burn the certificate. That's right. Basically it, right?
Or it's provably a unique certificate that cannot be transferred once or once it's sold.
Once it's sold, exactly. But many times as it exists today, companies will say that they retired, but then they will just sell it in the secondary market with a profit. So once we clean that system and refi, as we call the movement, regenerative finance, will allow that to happen. And carbon is just one part of it. We have biodiversity. We have all other type of impact needs that can be offset, plastics, for example. And that's what I find interesting, or at least the biggest trend at the moment.
Have you already invested actively in these types of projects with Flori, or these are the projects you're looking for?
Already invested and looking for. So I would recommend people to go search on the MLV side, on MLV Collective, Qubit, and Hyphen, as companies that are interested to check on the MLV on-chain side. On the interesting project, I would suggest looking at Covalent. Use Covalent, they're called, and on Carbon Path. that are doing interesting projects, and looking at plastics as a plastic offsetting, a new type of like offsetting tools. So those are like just a few out of the companies we invested in that I found them fascinating.
Tomo, the mission of a VC, a venture capital, is to create capital, to make an earning. That's why most of your investors can be very much aligned with your vision, and you do have a vision to improve the world and especially emerging markets. But at the end of the day, the investors want to make a profit, and that's kind of the goal for the VC, right? So tell us a bit how you marry this type of trying to improve the lives of people, having a regenerative agriculture, finance, and improving the environment with making a profit, turn it into a profitable investment.
So what I'm most interested right now in are climate and credit, I call it. Those are my two most interesting subjects. And you make money when you solve problems. That's the game. And when I look at the commitments of companies like Apple, Microsoft, and all the big 500 companies, they all made their commitment of zero emissions. So we have the demand side coming in. The demand side already made this commitment to come in by year X. I know what amount of money they need to spend, and it's like hundreds of billions of dollars need to be spent in order for them to get there. So we have the demand side standing. And when we look at the demand side and we look at the existing supply versus what the demand requires, we see a huge gap, huge financial gap.
And also the quality of the supply. Like if the supply is not even transparent, verifiable, and actually,
so no one will buy it over time. Brand can go that far when it comes to those kind of stuff. So when we see such a gap, we see a huge financial opportunity in that sense. So when we look at impact, we look at problems that people have that we actually care about. So that's how we look. How do we analyze the financial side of the climate investments? The other analysis that we do on the credit side is there is today credit gap in the world of it's called MSME, micro, small, medium enterprises. They are in the global south, generally speaking. We're talking about a credit gap of $5.2 trillion, and that's above the $3 trillion of credit that those people take today. And this gap comes from the fact that those people literally have no credit scoring. You don't know how to credit score about 4 billion people of society, which is almost half of the people in the world. Now, the fact that they don't have access to formal credit doesn't mean they don't take loans. It means they don't take loans from bank or for fintech solutions. They take loans from family, friends, uncles, the village, and that could go to loans of 15% a month, 10% a month, numbers that are gray market for us, we call it, right? Black market. Even.
Yes.
But for them, it's just life. Now, if we invest in companies that are bridging that gap, that finding new ways to create new types of credit scores in order to give loans either to those companies or those people. I'll give examples. We have EthiChub as an example of a company that are giving loans to farmers in 5 countries around the world. They analyze their supply chain, how much do they export, and then they have an interesting staking mechanism to be used as collateral to allow people like me and you to come in, stake our money, and give it as loan to the farmers. We have GIA, who already made their loans to the health care systems in villages in Kenya. We have Massa Finance, who is creating a new credit score that is fully on chain, and so on. So we're looking for huge financial gaps that we can solve. And then we want to hear people's vision to how do they solve those financial gaps. And that's how we can make returns that will compete, if not be better than other VCs in that sense.
I think that's a very, very smart approach. Hearing it from you now, it kind of makes sense because there is a huge market gap with the investment that's coming into becoming all companies becoming net zero, and the opportunity behind the black kind of peer-to-peer financing mechanisms, which is family and friends loans. So yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity there. Now, how do you vet a project when they come to you and you say, you're figuring out whether this is a sound investment or knowing the risk that's involved with Web3 crypto? And I'm not going even into the, is this project even legit or a scam? Let's get past that hurdle. But the ratio of projects that are really able to be sustainable and profitable long term, it's so small, because so how do you go about setting the eye on the target?
So it's divided into few pieces of the scene. It's about how much does this person actually knows the market, right? If the person in front of me comes and talks about the problem, but he doesn't educate me on the problem, he stays in a very shallow side of it, right? Then like it's a no-go. This is like the first no-go. Like, does he know the world that he's talking about? And usually I will take it if it's a world that I don't know, and I will take it and vet it with people from his own world to see if what he told me about the world is actually true. So that will be the first level, like his knowledge about the market. Then there is the crypto side of it. That luckily for me, I know to I can call bullshit very easily. So I believe that in order to really utilize the crypto, generally speaking, someone asked me not too long ago, what's missing in crypto in order for it to go mainstream? And I thought, and yes, was like regulation. Is it money? And I thought, no, it's knowledge. It's the knowledge of how do you actually use the blockchain and the crypto in order to be used for what it's supposed to be meant for, and that is usually experienced inside the blockchain space. You can really hear like different views. So second is like, does he really understand how to use this technology that he's talking about, or is just using it as a buzzword? And third is, well, can those people actually deliver a product? Like, what did they do before they come here? How much time did they take them? And are they capable of like delivering something? Even sometimes I see founders coming to me with an ugly deck, just for the sake of the example. It's such a small thing, but the medium is the message. The fact that done didn't mean done for the person in front of me could be a no-go, because in a product you can't have like missing angles. In order for product to win and to become $1 billion company, you need to have $1 billion attitude.
Right. And if the deck looks ugly, you can interpolate that to how the website's going to look. And if a website doesn't fit, a large market and it's just subpar, then how is it going to attract mass, consumers?
And it's the fact that someone didn't look at the small details before he came to a meeting with me. But at the end of the day, I'm like, sadly, I can't meet all the people who are sending me cold messages. I just can't. And when someone knows that it's time to approach, he came ready, he will be ready for his next stage, and it's the ability to deliver that is super important in that sense.
Creators, just a quick break from our episode to do a shameless plug about my brand new course, the Web3 Business Creator Course. Now, if you have been trying to build a business in Web3, you know that this is extremely hard. And if you already built $1 billion unicorn, then you might skip this thing and continue enjoying the episode. But otherwise, the Web3 Business Creator Course really sets the foundations that you need to build a thriving business in Web3. So we get into mindset, we go through the foundations that you need into team building, fundraising, sourcing a great idea. This is a great resource to get started on your Web3 builder journey. And because we're in a bear market, I'm putting out 50 spots for an 80% discount on the course if you use the code build in the bear. So make use of it. We have only 50 spots for that, and see you inside. So let's get a bit onto the market cycle of crypto. What we're experiencing right now, let's do a bit of bear market talk, or if we are in a bear market, the recent pump is already getting people very excited, saying, okay, this is the new bull market, the bottom is in. And that's typical in our cycles, because the bottom line is, we never know. But yes, the general kind of attitude and emotion on the market is shifting. And what I would want to ask to you is, how did you guys manage to navigate 2022, the large crashes, and of course, how do you capitalize on the opportunity of a lot of companies that are, maybe even already post investment, but they are now, because of the market conditions, looking like very attractive investments, even though they're not in the stage that you guys are looking at?
So I'll say, first of all, I love bear markets. There is a huge shadow that exists in the bull market, and it's the shadow of scammers. And standing next to this shadow is really, really hard. I'll give an example. Like, I'm in love with the stablecoin scene. I think stablecoins are the killer app of blockchain, literally. Mm-hmm. And there was a time where you couldn't say stablecoin without standing next to Luna and USD.
You still can't, but the connotation now has changed.
But the connotation has changed. Back then, just talking about it without offering 18% yearly APY was like, well, it's just not good enough. You will never compete with the leading competitor because he can't, and it's like that in so many places. The shadow of FTX on other exchanges, the shadow of Luna on, and so on. In bear market, you don't have this shadow. All you have is what actually drives demand, which is way more fun to have those conversations to other investors, to other companies, etc. In terms of like us and how do we capitalize the situation, we don't go out of our strategy. It's very easy to chase shining objects. And from my experience, it confuses you more than it helps you in the long run, even though there's opportunities on the table. I understand that now few live tokens that exist of companies that already raised hundreds of millions of dollars are sold below VC price. Like, I understand that those opportunities exist, but the most important resource that I have is time. And if I'm going to need to split my time between researching pre-seed, seed products to now researching existing live companies and understanding opportunities here and here, I will do a very shallow walk here and a very shallow walk here. So as much as it's hard, we are sticking to our strategy. Bull market, bear market, pre-seed, seed investments. Yes, we get better, the valuations are going down, even in the pre-seed seed terms. So this is our way of capitalizing it, and we're sticking to what we do in that sense.
That's great to hear, because time and focus is really the most precious resources anyone have. Now, speaking about time, let's dig into that, because I think the timing and time horizons are such a critical aspect of investing in general, and more specifically venture capitals. And I remember there's a chapter of the All In podcast. I don't know if you hear it, but it's kind of, it's become a must in the industry, and everyone who wants to know about investments. And I remember they mentioned that those venture capitals, the VCs that manage to distribute to their partners and LPs, during 2021 were actually are in a much better position to fundraise again and to build another a new VC or raise more money than the ones who just didn't distribute in all towards the bear market. At the same time, the VCs that we as founders, as builders, want to go to are the VCs that are with us for the long term. And they're telling us, listen, if we invest, we're with you all the way, and we're with you, we're thinking in 10, 20 years times, not in the next cycle. So how do you handle, how do you navigate this time horizons when it's very important, it's important to distribute, and at the same time, you want to have a long-term commitment with your founders?
So we don't distribute early. That's simple. We don't play the short-term game. I know it's tempting, and we gave up on money for that as well. But if we haven't seen anything in crypto yet, we didn't even scratch. Like we do, if we do sell something early, we do it for recycling. And we might do that. We might sell our position, but then we will recycle the investment. Go and invest it in somewhere else. But in order to actually have good returns on a fund, it's all a game of finding the next billion-dollar company. That's the most important game that you're playing now. Mm-hmm. And over a long time, you see that yes, you can raise more money if you distributed some money, but the VCs that are doing the best returns are actually the one who, like, recycling is one of the most important tools that you can do in order to have those like 7-8x returns as a fund, and not just go to being the same as the S&P doing. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do, and we stay with our companies for the long term, like the companies that we obviously believe in.
That's great to hear. So founders, builders, check out Flori Ventures. And secondly, how do you see yourself at Flori together with other VCs? Are you building kind of a network of investors? But at the same time, you want to be the you want to punch above your weight and become a larger VC and kind of adopt the best practice in the industry. And I guess if we as founders aspire to be the new Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or huge founder, I guess, what do you consider to be kind of the golden standards? Is it Anderson Horowitz, like A16Z, or is it other VCs in the space? How do you see this network?
So for us, and luckily I can say that the type of investors that play the same game that I play, it's a very collaborative game. We change deals between us. We talk about deals together. Sometimes people think we're like co-founders of Flori. They're like, no, they're like Draft Ventures and we are Flori, because we do so many deals together, and they used to see us sitting together around the same tables. Mm-hmm. And we do it because it's the same as when you see many times when you start a company, you will bring with you someone who worked with you in your last company or the company before, because you were such an A-team together. And the same goes for investors. You know who you play good with, you have a good team with when you're on around the same table, then you want to bring them with you, not just because we're friends, because you know it will bring more value to the company that you just invested in to have this same person on the table. Now, I have to say that this I think happens way more in the early stages, because our competition is a bit different than the later stages, right? We spend early stage investors like us spend a lot of time with our companies. I literally sit down and write the models in Excels with my companies, designing token models. My co-founders sitting down, writing the decks with everything. We're spending a lot of time with our companies. At the later stages, the game becomes a bit different, and there's a bit more competition because there's the balance of how many checks you can write at the later stage is a bit different. And about what you asked about Andreessen, do I see them as the Holy Grail? No, I don't see them as the Holy Grail. I see them as a big fund doing great job, have some good investment, have some bad investments. I don't think in that sense, many founders are tempted to go to the larger funds in their pre-seed stage because they can. I don't think it's always played for the best for them. Building an investors team is not just money. If you're going to an investors because it's just money for you, you have gained, I don't know, like 30% of what you could get out of an investor. If you want a good investor, is a good team member that you can have, and you have the opportunity in the angels pre-seed stage and seed stage to bring some amazing players on your table, just because of this round of smaller investors that you bring before you jump into the larger like institutions to be investing in you. So I think it's a matter of stage more than a holy grail. Yes, Andreessen, a holy grail of a certain stage. I don't think they fit all stages in that sense.
Totally agree. And I think you mentioned something super important about the becoming a team member. So how do we as founders vet like a good VC that is going to bring also value to the table, not only the investment itself, versus a VC? What I've always noticed as well is that there are a lot of companies that can get a mega round from all this, huge investors, and that does give them kind of a boost. But then again, they're just one of their 1,000 portfolio companies, and they get, they don't get the attention that they could get from maybe an earlier stage investor that is really focused on then succeeding, right?
So I think that TV did a lot of wrong to investments, because when you imagine investments when you're younger, you imagine it as a bit like in a movie. You come with your deck, you're doing an amazing pitch, everybody is stunned, and they're giving you a check, and here we go, right? Like that's investments. And investments are way more like dating. You come, you meet someone, you're having a conversation, you tell them about your idea, you tell them what you thought, and then you need to shut up and listen. Now, if the person in front of you have dumb ideas, or even, don't have any ideas, doesn't engage with what we can do as a company, doesn't fertilize the ground of the conversation to where we can go forward, then maybe he's not the best investor for you. At least on this stage. There is a stage where you're just looking for commodity money, and that's okay. But at least when you start the conversation, search for someone who you can talk to, that you feel like, oh my God, like this conversation was like really helpful for me, or at least he asked
this guy gets me,
it gets it. Like we can sit down and talk about it and do stuff, because then if you get an investor that is like actually excited and interested in what you're doing and think about it and has his own ideas, then you'll see it will come naturally. A lot like dating, right? Like, how do you know that she's the girl for you? You don't. You just go for another date, and you continue asking questions, and you go for another date, and at some point you're saying, well, let's be friends now. And it's a step-by-step relationship, and I would highly recommend everybody to be looking at investments like dates more than they look at it as like me presenting to you what I do.
And don't go into bed with a VC that is turning on too many red flags. The same with investments, right?
Exactly. Red flags are red flags. Like, trust yourself in that sense. Red flags are hard.
Tell us about the typical, the most instantaneous red flags that get triggered on your brain as a VC that immediately shut you off from the opportunity of investing, or it triggers okay, this is not an investable opportunity?
Red flags, the thing about red flags is that they come usually because if the conversation is just boring, then it's just boring. There's no red flags, right? Like if the conversation is just not interesting, then there's
maybe
no
that's a red flag in and of itself, right?
But that's the thing about red flags. Red flags you need to notice when the conversation is exciting, but there is red flags. Because if the conversation is just boring, you don't need to search for red flags. It's just boring. I'm not going to go a second date because it's just not interesting. The question is like, what do you do when it is interesting? But then there are like red flags that you can notice. And this is where you need to be valuations a markup of they're a marker of risk, right? And many times we see that people who knows how to sell very well will be the most impressive people in pitching to investors, right?
Of course.
And it's very easy to get pulled into those charismatic founders coming and giving you the speech, and they always finish with the round is already full, but like we're willing to give you some space, and it's and then you need to I played the game of 21 questions, we call it. Yeah. I'm gonna ask 21 questions now. Let's see when and I'm gonna find something that I really understand that he said, and see if you really understand what he talks about. This is where you need to stop those people and to be like, let's dig really into your product. And then you could meet so many gaps, right? Those people who speak very quickly, very impressively, and they only try to pull you in without it's not a date anymore. It's them trying to be impressive. And sometimes, and those people where you try to turn it into a conversation, but they don't let you, that's here we go. Here's a no-go. For me. So that's a red flag. And usually my question would be can you show me the product? Can you explain me a bit about the product? Can you something that's like another step deeper into what we're actually doing here. So
let's dig deeper into that, Tomer. What is the stage where would you advise founders to approach VCs? What is the threshold between doing a bootstrap of a product, trying to developing an MVP, however you can, or what is the stage that you would recommend going into VC, such as Flori for a pre-seed, right? We're talking early, when the idea is kind of, it's a great idea, but you don't really have it validated yet by the market. So what is a good stage that you would say, okay, this is a stage that you can and should consider approaching a VC?
So I think it's actually it's different between the type of product that you build, right? But what you should be doing, first of all, I hope that as a founder, you already have people that you trust to call bullshit on you. Fans from your last walk, so do your job by pitching your idea to those people that you trust to tell you, well, listen, it's a bad idea, first of all. Now, what you need to notice very closely is that did they understand what I just explained them, or I needed to have another half an hour in order just to explain them what I'm trying to do. Now, it can be that I can just explain my idea by talking, and everybody got it, and everybody liked it, and then you know what? You might even not need a deck to explain your idea. But usually, after you explain it to people you really trust, they'll be like, they won't really get it, and that's where you're starting to build a deck. Sometimes a deck won't be enough. See if you people like the people from. So then I would advise people to build a demo. Usually I recommend a Figma demo, just a design. A design makes things very alive and can help people imagine what is it that you're trying to do, what is the type of experience that I'm looking into. I won't recommend, unless you're a very technical founder that is like just capable of like building it by himself, to go and build an MVP. Yes, if you're not a, a technical founder, you're a business founder, yes, I would recommend usually small demo, design demo, a deck that you have tried on few people and you understand that people get it. People get what you're doing. They already ask you the hard question. You iterated your model a few times and you feel secure about that. That will be about the time to come and meet VC. Now, I will say something. Fundraising is a process. And after you met a founder, VC, create a small newsletter just for potential investors and advisors to keep on updating him month by month. Those ongoing updates is part of the dating system, is like texting someone once in a while,
Right.
because sometimes maybe as a VC I don't have liquidity right now. Maybe I'm just in the middle of like raising my second fund right now. You don't know. There is an asymmetrical game here of what is the ability of the person in front of me to write check right now? What is the person of this person to commit into a relationship right now? Relationships always have asymmetry of knowledge. Maintain ongoing relationships. It's not only about the selling your product at the conversation at time zero. Sometimes someone won't come in pre-seed, but will come in the seed. So maintain those relationships by doing monthly, bi-monthly emails to those people.
Right. And once you fundraise, it's kind of your investor community, right? Even if it's small, even if it's one or two VCs, those are your shareholders at the end of the day, right? So I think a very interesting conversation when specifically about Web3 and crypto is when you are considering investing in a crypto project, a Web3 project. What is the weight you give to equity versus tokens? Because the investment the investment done in crypto and Web3 is kind of a bit more complex into that kind of there are these two mechanisms, or like buying the project tokens or getting the equity in the company. So how do you structure that? How do you approach that?
So I will say that first, there's a red flag hiding here sometimes, that it's very hard for me to see companies, people were telling me they're building both a token and a successful company, one next to each other. This thing has its own business model, this thing has its own business model. It's very rare that we have seen, rare to the level that I don't know any that I can mention right now, companies who issued a successful token and made an exit or made an IPO. Like, maybe like of any, but I don't have in mind right
No,
now.
not yet, because the IPO so far the IPOs has been Coinbase. Coinbase don't have a token, so that's basically.
Exactly, we had some exits, but the companies who didn't exit didn't have a token. It's very rare that you will see both. So this one is for me also red flag. When someone tells me like, yes, I will have a successful token and a very successful company, unless he has a very clear explanation on why the two are needed, then it's hard for me to digest. Second, the way I do it from an investment perspective is, because I invest in early stage, I know people can't know where the value will accrue to in such an early stage. That's why you always prefer in those early stages to be investing in a safe plus token warrant, which will basically say, well, I have X amount of shares in your company, but if token will be the game that we're playing, like I'm gonna get my fair share relative to how much I own in the company of the future tokens. Now, that type of mechanism, unlike buying a SAFT or buying a safe, keeps me and the founders aligned. Because I don't know, I know it happened to people in the past where they bought a SAFT, but then the value just shifted into the company, and then what? Like, you're not giving your like investors a share now because, oh, they bought a SAFT, not a safe, and
Now, there are a ton of examples of great companies that are profitable and making a great impact in the industry, and their token is, it's in the dumpster. And at the same time, there are a lot of companies that you see the valuation on the token, multi-billion-dollar market cap, and they're not turning in a profit. They're struggling to get by, and they need to get approvals from the DAO to burn some tokens and get by.
So that's why for me, I always like, and I recommend early stage companies to do that as well. Safe plus token warrant. It helps align incentives of all the stakeholders and not spread people around of like, oh shit, like those people investing in stuff, those people investing in safe. Now I'm inside this mess of like, how do I answer everybody's needs? So that's my recommendation in terms of strategy.
Tomer, let's make this episode golden for our viewers. Okay, I'm a Web3 founder going on raising funds for a VC. Give us from the inside out. Give us your internal master playbook in just a few steps that you say, okay, this founder is doing all the things right. He's getting on my right side of the.
Yeah. So there's I don't remember who said it, but it's called inevitable future. The first, I need the person in front of me. We need to start a conversation by him describing me an inevitable future. The future is going to go there, unrelated to your product. This is where the future is going to go, if we would like it or not. Now, when I was bought on that vision, right, I now understand, yes, this is where the future is going to go. Now, this is like the Northern Stars. It's like here. And we are here. Then I need to hear what is step one and how is step one bringing us to the future that is that inevitable future that is unrelated to the company. So it goes inevitable future. What is our first step to get there? And then why am I the person who is capable of doing it? Like, what have I done in my past that made me understand? Take me through your aha moments, because a founder had aha moments that brought him to the vision of what he wants to build. It was like, oh my God, yes, like they are missing that. I need you to take me through that. Like I get it now. I go through the same mental understanding that you went through. You're not selling me anything. You're taking me to the same journey that you went through of like, this is what the future is going to be. And if we'll do that, we'll manage to prove that we are capable of bringing us to that future. And obviously I am the one to do that because I don't know, I've done X, Y, and Z. It's everything I know about life. You know what? There's nothing better for me to do in life than doing that. And you many times see that, right? Like you're telling you like, I've done social media and I'm a musician that don't have royalties in life. And you're like, okay, it fits that person. This is what he should be doing.
Right. So become the guy that it's obvious that can deliver on that promise, right?
Yep, and that your head won't jump to other places. You're doing that not because you don't have anything better to do, because you can't do anything else. What you had is kind of like stuck on because you saw that problem. You just can't take your eyes off it.
Wow, that's awesome, Tomer. This has been so enlightening. I enjoy talking to you. So I would love to do a 2-hour episode, but what that signals to me is that we must have you back on again. So you're already invited. This has been a great episode. Any other tips and tricks for Web3 builders?
Yes, don't die in the bear market. Just don't die. This is not the time to die because you didn't manage to raise money right now, because you need to fire some people. Don't die now. Just don't die.
Survive.
It's a survival game.
Yes. Well said. Excellent said. Tomer, I want to wish you a great travel. I know you're traveling to Spain now, so have a very safe and enjoyable trip. And this has been great. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for your time, and thanks everybody for listening. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, Samuel. Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Please keep in mind that none of what's said in this podcast should be considered financial advice. You are strongly recommended to do your own research and do not take anything we say in this podcast as a recommendation to buy or sell any assets whatsoever.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Web3 Creators Podcast. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all of your favorite platforms. And if you're serious about building your own Web3 business, head over to web3creatordojo.com and check out our courses. That's web3creatordojo.com. See you soon, creators.